Greetings and salutations. This is Abdelhadi with The Bitter Truth, where we may not have all the answers, but we're going to ask an awful lot of questions. You can also become a bitter pill or a spoonful of sugar or the soon-to-be new tier, the medicine going down, and get some fabulous swag to make your life better. Today we have a friend of the show, hasn't been on for a little bit. She's been busy with other things, but she's had a busy year so far, so we thought it'd be fun to have her come on, and she reached out and said, "Hey, how you been?" So we started talking. So Katija Gruene is here, and if you don't know who she is, she actually is a pretty heavyweight individual. She's run for president herself in 2008 to get the nomination for the Green Party, and then strongly backed Cynthia McKinney, who got the nomination in 2008. And she worked very hard for Cynthia McKinney, and Cynthia McKinney obviously didn't win the election in 2008, but she was a good candidate, and Katija Gruene is a good person, and here she is. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing, Abe?
I'm good, man. Just kind of a crazy week. I'm glad it's kind of over-ish, but so y'all had the Green Convention, and that was a Zoom thing, right?
Yeah, well, it was, the public side was Zoom, but we used Lumio for voting and discussion internally.
What was the difference between, why two different platforms? What was the difference?
Oh, so we could vote. Zoom doesn't really have a voting feature.
Okay, all right. How did it go? How'd you feel about it?
Honestly, having been to like every single presidential nominating except for 2012 because of that car accident, and since 2000, it was the quickest, easiest convention I've ever been to.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, and actually I think we had more voter participation, because what happens in person is people get so distracted by interacting with each other because, sitting on the convention floor is boring as hell. And so like they go away, have conversations, forget that they're supposed to be voting, and then people have to go and run around and collect them all up. So having like a way to online vote was really, really helpful. But I haven't really seen anybody say they were unhappy with the virtualness of it. In fact, I've seen a lot of people really like it because, it costs a lot of money to pick up from wherever you are and go across the country for like, a 4-hour convention. I mean, right. It's bigger than that, but the official part of it is that 4 hours.
Right.
Which is why we do all the workshops and all the stuff to make it worth your while.
Right.
But we still were able to do all that stuff virtually. And I found it to be much more relaxed but I was still able to have conversations, right? Because we had the Lumio chat stuff going on. So we could talk to each other and still have that bit of socialization. Not the same, but it's, it's still there.
Right.
And the workshops were good, and they're all online. So people, whereas in person, they're not always recorded. I mean, we try to, but like now it's like, it's all there. You can go back and watch it for the rest of the time.
Right. So I know there was a little bit of drama this convention, right? Usually is.
There's always drama.
Somewhere. Always drama. You know what though? And this is the thing. It's like, I mean, I know y'all have a challenge, I think more so than the libertarians, with infiltrators and wolves in sheep's clothing and shit like that. The thing that I never understood, we don't have to name any names necessarily, but the thing that I never understood is, and nothing, this isn't a slam. It's just sort of what it is. I don't know what an ex-Democrat operator benefits from trying to infiltrate y'all's party and trying to get the nomination. I mean, what does it benefit them?
I mean, if you're an ex-Democrat, then you're really not an infiltrator, right? It's if you're a Democrat infiltrator, right? And the Democratic infiltrators, they're the ones that they think that we're a threat to their existence. And so it's incumbent upon them to destroy us because they don't believe in competition, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, we can't have anybody that, is competing against us. And it's like, well, that's kind of your problem, isn't it?
Right. Well, I mean, so in other words, they're not trying to infiltrate the party to get power for themselves. They're just trying to infiltrate the party to disrupt the party.
Well, yeah, but there are definitely the narcissists that are in it for themselves, but they don't usually last very long.
Right.
Like the people who are in it for power, they usually can obtain some level of power, but then they get shut down, pretty quick after causing chaos, of course, but they don't last.
Right. Well, I mean, we'll see. And that's, I mean, because the thing with the libertarians, for example, and there's this guy named Neil Dykman. I don't know who he is.
I know the name.
Yeah, he ran for Senate a couple years back, and he's been on the show a couple times. And last year, he actually brought suit against the state of Texas because the Republicans in Texas came up with this really genius law that makes everybody, Greens, Libertarians, everybody, have to pay a $3,000 filing fee. And so he successfully sued him and a couple of Libertarian guys, and they weren't doing it for the Libertarians; they're doing it for pretty much everybody because it doesn't matter. The Democrats and Republicans don't have to pay this fee. And he sued the state successfully and got a court-ordered injunction on the law. And then the attorney general just said, oh, yeah, well, fuck it. We're not going to follow what the judge said.
Yeah, exactly.
So now they got to go back to court to uphold what the judge upheld. And the attorney general's kind of like, neener, it's your money. I don't care. I don't have to do it. And I know a guy named Kerry, I'm spacing on his name, up in Lubbock. He's running for Senate for the Libertarian Party. He had to pay $5,000 as a filing fee.
And this is the part. So that affects us. And because Libertarians have money and lawyers, they tend to file the suits faster. But, I'm a candidate for the railroad commissioner this year. And the only reason why I'm a candidate that's supposedly going to be on the ballot is because of that injunction, right?
Right.
Like right now, the Secretary of State is saying, you're good, you're going to be on the ballot. But any day now, they could say, oh, never mind, we changed our mind.
Right.
And that filing fee, get this. So the jerk who submits that is a Democrat. That rule was written by a Democrat.
Okay.
To stop Greens. That's
okay. Well, the way I heard the story was the GOP came up with it in the GOP assembly because they don't like the Libertarians.
Well, I'm sure there was collusion. Okay.
Collusion? You mean a conspiracy? I like that word better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like they got together and
collusion
is like, hey, I want to get Mexican, and you say no, I want to get Italian. Then we colluded on where to go to dinner. That's collusion.
Okay. All right.
Conspiracy is that
But that's how the legislature works, right? Is these people who are like, oh, this rule is allowing, I mean, that's the only reason why Green Party has ballot access, right? This whole thing goes back to Republicans and Democrats playing little games like this about like, oh, well, we have to pay a filing fee to pay for our primaries. So you should have to pay for a filing fee to pay for our primaries because our filing fees for Greens and Libertarians pay for their primaries. Right. They don't pay for our primaries because we're not allowed to have them.
Right.
So it's this bogus argument that we should pay the same thing because they have to.
But you don't pay the same thing. The Democrats and Republicans pay like $200, and Greens and Libs are paying $3,000 and $5,000. I know guys who wiped out their entire campaign fund as Libertarians running for Congress because it was like $3,000.
It's the same fee. It's just, it depends on what race you're running for. And yeah, Senate is like 5, Congress is like, or 3, and it goes down. But the law says they have to be the same filing fee. But yeah, and there is a petition in lieu of, but it was like the injunction happened during the filing process. And then before the filing process. Right. And then during it, they said, no, you have to do this. There's no way anybody's going to collect petition signatures that fast. And, the petition laws in Texas are onerous, and they're on a lawsuit right now about ballot access petitioning. So it's all just these political games to keep people off the ballot that they see as competition. And it's nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then, we were talking a little bit before, and I remember you were talking about, and I've seen people do this, but and it seems people in the Green Party do the same thing, but you see, and I hate to use the word liberal because it's just such a shitty word, but, and you don't see minorities do this. It's always fucking white people that do this, right? But they seem to like condone bad behavior and then tell you to calm down or you're too angry when you say something about that, right? Like,
oh yeah, that's my big shtick right now, because this was a big issue that came up during the whole convention behind the scenes stuff, is like this whole, and yeah, you're right. It's the people who are conflict adverse, right?
mm-hmm.
We like to call, lots of people call them liberals, but the reality is these are just conflict adverse people
Mm-hmm.
who, instead of saying things like, yes, this person is a problem, they say, oh, well, can't we just get along and like not argue? And it's like, no, these people are being oppressive and they're saying that we don't have the right to exist, or they're saying that I'm, stupid, or they're saying that I'm whatever, they could be sea lioning or gaslighting or passive aggressiveness or outright bigotry. It doesn't matter what the bad behavior is, right? The point is that you have these, and you're right, they're mostly white. And I can't say that they're mostly male or female, but because they tend to both do it. But they see this conflict happening and they're like, oh, no, let's not have conflict. And that's like the end of it. There's
right.
well, how about we deal with the problem behaviors so that we don't have to have this conflict? Like, don't you realize that dealing with it is actually how we change the environment here so that people aren't subjected to this crap?
Yeah, I mean, and that's, well, I mean, I to not even a lesser degree, actually, it's a greater degree because they have a bigger mic. But you see people like Joe Biden do it. You see Nancy Pelosi do it. I watched when the CARE bill was getting passed. There was a clip running around YouTube that Jake Tapper was busting her balls about the CARES Act, and well, there's not enough money in here for people. Seems like you're giving all this money away to companies. And she's like, calm down, we're on it, and like, well, first of all, why he allowed himself to get bitch slapped by Nancy Pelosi, I have no idea, because I would have said, well, no, I'm not going to calm down. When are you going to get on it? Because you didn't get on it the last two bills you passed, right? But
right.
Okay,
but when you do that, right? When they tell you to calm down and they're like, no, I'm not going to calm down, this is serious. They just come right back at you and are like, oh, well, you're the problem here, right? Like,
well, they love to throw the anger card. They love to say that you're angry, right? I get that shit all the time. Oh, you're just angry. I'm like, no, I'm not angry. I get angry. There's a difference, right? I'm not running around in this perennial ball of anger. I mean, one would debate that.
And since when did anger become something that's not allowed? Like, why are we not allowed to be angry? Well,
because we're a nation run by fucking toddlers, and that's why. That's why.
Well, it is the core of patriarchy, right? Like, you can't be angry at us because we're the paternal figures that are we're right and you're wrong, and if you get angry, then you're wrong. So this is a perpetual problem, and so for me, it's just they're perpetuating the problem by trying to calm down people who are pointing out oppression or pointing out exclusion or pointing out that they're not doing shit. They're just talking, right? Mm-hmm. It's like talking heads, like, stop.
Right. Well, hey, listen, and we talked about this a little bit off mic, but I did truly want to ask you about the final nominations and everything like that. As far as Texas and all of that goes, and I haven't been following it very closely, and that's my bad, but because I've been, just honestly just so loaded with libertarian people calling me and stuff. But what's up with the Greens and like the Senate and the Congress and all of that for Texas? How's that going?
Oh, well, because of those filing fees, we had a really hard time recruiting candidates this year. But we do actually in Texas have, I should have been prepared with their districts and everything, but it's on the txgreens.org website, the actual districts. There's a guy named Brody running up in North Texas for Congress, I believe. He's really solid. He's new to me, but I've been interacting with him regularly on internal stuff, and he's he's running an active campaign, and he's out to win, and he's good on the issues, and he's willing to listen when he doesn't understand an issue or even have experience with it. He's not going to be like, oh, well, I don't know. Or, I mean, he might say, I don't know, but I mean, he's not going to be like sidetracking you off of a conversation about something he doesn't know about, right? He's the kind of person to like listen to you. And I think that's pretty common with any of the people I'm going to actually mention, is that they're willing to be educated on the things they don't know.
Sure.
Which is a unique thing in a candidate, right? And then Tom Wakely is running in 21, I believe, House Rep 21. And, he came back around in, I guess, about 4 years ago. He ran as a Democrat because the Greens down in Bexar County, who were problematic at the time, dismissed him. And the dude called me, and I was like, hey, don't I know you? And he's like, yeah, he's like, well, I was around. This dude was around when I got involved with Green Party back in 2000. So he's got a long history of being associated with Greens. He only ran as a Democrat so that he could run. He did really well, even though it's a heavily gerrymandered Republican district to some extent. He's really solid on immigration issues. He's running on a pro-legalization, pro-immigration, ending the concentration camps. Those are the two things I've seen out of him lately. But the districts he's in, those are big issues. So he's real solid. Our Senate candidate, he has run before, and mostly to help us with ballot access, but he's been a solid Green for a long time. He's a quirky character, but he's shit. If he got elected, he'd do the job. Trying to think who else is actually filed for. I'm not sure, but those may be the only federal candidates we have in Texas.
We'll check that.
And of course, there's the famous one, Lisa Savage, running in Maine, who has a hot chance of winning.
Right. And then let's just be frank. I mean, because talking about the Greens and talking about, this year without bringing up Howie Hawkins is like doing Hamlet without Hamlet.
Yeah.
I know he was running. Obviously, he got the nomination, but then there's some, other people we don't need to name that were sort of maybe less scrupulous trying to get the nomination. But how do you feel about Howie getting the nomination?
I feel fine about it, actually, and I think his VP candidate is the best, well-rounded VP we've ever had. I heard her interview with Dr. Jared Ball on I Mix What I Like, and Dr. Ball was a candidate in 2008, but he dropped out when Cynthia McKinney came in. He was actually my choice. I would have voted for him and me, but he was my choice. He's real solid. Anyway, he did an interview with Angela Walker, his VP candidate, or Howie's VP candidate, and man, he threw her all the hardball questions, and she just flipped them on a dime and answered them like I would answer them. It was like, this girl's got it. I mean, she's not a girl, but this woman's got it going on. She's a truck driver, dude. Like, she is like
a real solid, truck driver.
Like a real, I think she drives a dump truck or something. She's like a real solid union truck driver from Minnesota. And she has a good history. And Howie, was a union rep for his Teamsters truck driving. He was also a truck driver, but he's retired now. So they're really solid union organizers. They're really solid on the issues, and they can talk about any issue you throw at them, unlike some of our more recent previous candidates.
Yeah.
But I know people are real like upset. They're calling all this bullshit about rigging and stuff. And the biggest problem is that you've got a lot of Green parties that are super small because of various reasons, right? Like the fact that we've been infiltrated repeatedly, that it's all volunteer organization, that getting on the ballot is like a gargantuan effort that wears people out, burns people out. All the abuse that you get from Democrats on the street. Like I've been verbally assaulted on the street, like up in my face, screaming at me for collecting petition signatures to put the Green Party on the ballot.
Right.
Like it's a hostile environment that we exist in. And the fact that we even still exist 20 years later in that environment is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't understand that not being, we're not the DNC, we're not the RNC. We don't have like billions of dollars of tools and hundreds of years of data to like that we're going off of. And so people expect us to like be like them in our organizing level and infrastructure. And then when we're not, they accuse us of things like rigging. And it's like, okay, so there is that issue.
Who accuses you of rigging? The guys that lost? I mean...
Yeah, dude. The only people accusing us of rigging are the candidates who couldn't make the cut.
Well, then, that's politics. That's politics.
Well,
that's politics. You make an argument. You make the other person's face fill with blood. You get an idea. You get out there and debate it. None of this Joe Biden bullshit where I'm going to vote blue no matter who. I'm going to vote for an incontinent, drooling, rubber diaper wearing piece of shit. Because why? The orange other piece of shit is worse? I mean, these people always have no history. There's never a history there. You're throwing your vote away. Really? Because, when the Republicans were the fourth party in 1860, I guess you're throwing your vote away, and they ended up taking the House, the Senate, and the presidency and held it for like 20 years. So what is this like toddler bullshit where voting for who you want to vote for is wrong?
It's a crime. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a crime against
humanity.
Get my vote.
Come get my vote. Well,
that's the thing, it's, and the people who lost, Kent Mesplay was one of the candidates. But he will admit to you that the reason why he didn't do well at all was because he didn't do the work. That he did not go out and talk to the parties. He didn't do the work to become recognized. And they're all like, "Oh, becoming recognized is so hard." I was like, "Yeah, it's so hard. A 34-year-old female working full time as a bookkeeper couldn't do it in 2008. I'm like, yeah, don't talk to me about this stuff. Like, they're complaining that they have to raise $5,000, get 100 signatures of Greens, and file with the FEC in order to be recognized as legit candidates.
Right.
And they're like, oh, well, your platform says that you want to eliminate barriers that are place an undue burden. And I'm like, how is this an undue burden?
100 signatures?
100 signatures nationwide.
I could walk into 4 bars in Austin right now and get 100 signatures.
Well, they have to be Greens, but still, like, go on Facebook.
I could find people on Facebook and Twitter. I can get 100 signatures.
And people can sign a petition for up to 4 candidates. So you're not restricted to just one petition, right? So, like, come on, dude. Like, seriously, you can't, like, pull your head out to, like, raise $5,000. Like, and they had, like, a lot of them had, like, the biggest loser, I consider him because he's the loudest. He started his campaign, I think, in, like, March or something of last year, 2019. And he had until November to raise the funds to hit the first, it was like September, I think, was the first, like, ballot deadline, right?
Right.
And So he had raised the money, got the signatures, filed the FEC, but he refused to tell the North Carolina Greens what his ballot access plan was. And so they were like, okay, well, if you don't want to tell us, then we're not putting you on the ballot, period. That's our rule. Because in North Carolina, in order to maintain ballot access in North Carolina,
right,
they have to run a presidential candidate that's on the ballot in 37 other states. So it's kind of imperative that if you want the nomination, that you're going to make sure that we're on the ballot in 37 states. And right now, as of today, we're only on the ballot in 30 states. So we need 7 more for North Carolina to keep ballot access for all their candidates in 2022. So, you know, this is important shit. This is not a game. Like, we're not playing this like, oh, well, I'm a woman, so you should vote for me and I should be your candidate.
Again, that's not politics.
Even though I live in Switzerland, I put Donald Trump as my VP choice, and I didn't do shit. Like, why? Like, but this whole mentality of like, oh, well, I belong to this historically oppressed group of people, and so therefore you should just support me because of that alone.
Right.
And that alone is not good enough. No,
it's not good enough. And that's why, and that is exactly why the so-called left in this country and the Democratic Party in this country is absolutely fucking weak. Because identity politics is nothing more than the United Color of Benetton ad. You know, oh, gee whiz, I get to go to fucking Starbucks and a black guy can give me a Frappuccino. Wow, I live in an evolved culture, right? Or or all the women or all the CEOs of defense contractors are women, right? Oh, we've evolved. Great. Yay. Sister gets to kill people too. Awesome. Right? It's like, that's not evolution. That's not right. But that's the fealty of identity politics. So you pay fealty to that bullshit. And suddenly you think we've evolved. And now I hear the complaint, well, there's not enough defense contractor women of color. They're all white. And I'm like, it's like, I'm paraphrasing a joke out of a book called American Exceptionalism, American Innocence by Danny Haifong and Roberta Servent. But I love this joke because it's true. It's like complaining about the ethnocentric hiring practices of the mafia, right? Well, gee whiz, if the mafia had some African Americans, like Don Cornelius could be a Don and Don Washington. And it's like, well, that's kind of okay, but it's still a murderous enterprise, right? That's when you play identity politics. You're paying fealty to just bullshit. It's bullshit. There's nothing. Martin Luther King said it best. And without social and economic justice, you don't have equality.
Yeah.
Period.
And tokenism is not equality.
100%. 100%. I mean, you know, even Cornel West said that Obama was the black mascot of Wall Street, and his supporters hate when you say that. But it's goddamn true. It's goddamn true. I mean, yeah, he ran in 2008, and what did he do that he said he was going to do in 2008? Not a goddamn thing. Not one thing did he say he was going to do, including but not limited to that bullshit health plan that was a Heritage Foundation right-wing written approved. Mitt Romney.
Oh, and how many people did he deport and put in cages? And now they're blaming Trump for that. Trump just continued what was already going on. Like,
oh yeah, and you know what though? If you want to have fun with your so-called liberal friends and make their heads explode, tell them that Trump is the 3rd and 4th term of Barack Obama, and they will lose their shit. I'm like, well, wait a minute. What is he doing different than Obama? He's meaner. He sends meaner tweets, and he is bombing more people. But what policies of Obama has he changed? He's drilling in the Arctic. Obama drilled in the Arctic twice because Shell told him to, right? What is he doing different?
Yeah, it's so funny because, you know, when it comes right down to it, whoever's sitting in the Oval Office is not really significant. Like, it's not important because they're not making as many decisions as people think they are, for one.
Right.
I mean, yeah, they get to choose their cabinet and blah, 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 but...
Or Citigroup gets to choose their cabinet.
Exactly. Like, you know, it's like whoever the head of the corporate masters is that year is who's sitting in that Oval Office. And it's always, you know, my entire lifetime, it has been someone controlled by corporations. And that's just a fact, you know. And so to tell me I've never in my life voted for a Democrat or a Republican presidential candidate ever. And I started voting in 92. to tell me that that it's a privilege, that I come from privilege in order to not vote for the people that are destroying the people that I care about, to me is like, it's this double speak of, you can't vote for people who are not going to be corporate whoremongers and enslave and, oppress people who are being oppressed, because that's suppressing the people that you're trying to support. Like, it's this weird, I can't even say it because it doesn't make sense to me that I should give up my values and vote for somebody who's not going to do anything different. I mean, our opposition in the blue clothes has not said, he has explicitly said that not much is going to change, right? That he's going to continue all of these things. He's not going to decriminalize marijuana. He's going to give the police more money. Well, he can't do that, but whatever he said about that, like, he's not going to change.
Well, he also said that if Medicare for All went through the Congress, he would veto it.
Right. So this dude is telling you, right? He's telling you who he is.
Right.
And you're telling me that I have to ignore what he's telling me because you're afraid of the one that's already in there, who's telling you who he is too, right?
Oh, and by the way, they don't really have a good reason why they're afraid of him. They just don't like him. It's hate porn. It's pornography of hate. It's pornography because they just get off on hating him. I hate him too. He's been a douchebag for 30 years. I know who he is. However, to tell me that this guy is better, then you're telling me two things. One, you're a toddler who doesn't know his record, even on a cursory level. Because I could point to three things right now that should make any so-called Democrat hate him and not want to vote for him either, right? But they don't. Oh, anybody's better than Trump. Really, like, okay, you don't watch The Twilight Zone then.
They said in about Bush, remember? They're like, anybody but Bush. And what happened? The same
we got him.
You know what happened? Is that they got the reprieve from fighting the system that they wanted. For 8 years, those people were silent about what Obama
No. You're being generous now. They weren't even silent. They were dead fucking asleep.
Well, okay.
Because I was having flat out arguments and lost a couple of girlfriends over this, because when Obama would pull his happy horse shit and I would lose my shit. Oh no, he would never bomb a hospital on purpose. It must have been bad coordinates. He's so nice. He's so charming.
Oh my God.
And even the other night I was out with with a couple of buddies, and one of my friends said, we got this idiot in the White House now as opposed to the constitutional law professor. I said, yeah, isn't it ironic that the constitutional law professor gutted habeas corpus and gutted posse comitatus? I think that's even worse because Obama's smart. Yeah. He knows better. He's a fucking constitutional law professor. This guy's an asshole who doesn't know anything. When he does something stupid, I expect it because he's stupid. He's dumb. I get it. When Obama does something, it's sinister because you know better. It's like that scene in Tombstone. It's like that scene in Tombstone where they both speak in Latin. And Doc Holliday tells his girlfriend, see that? Evidently, Mr. Ringo's an educated man. Now I really hate him. Because Johnny Ringo spoke Latin too, which meant you went to college in the 1800s too. So why are you out here gunning around with all these assholes when you know better? Obama knew better. And he did all that shit anyway. And having the Muslim dad and all that crap, and you go steaming right into the Middle East the way he did. Oh my God. These people they're not even asleep. They're not even silent. That would intone knowledge. They are dead asleep.
Yeah, and that's my big problem with the whole thing is that, it would be different, right? If they were like, oh, we got to, get Obama in or whatever. And then after he got elected, they didn't go to sleep, right? They fought him on the NDAA. They fought him on bombing everybody he could. Libya, Syria, the list goes on and on. Deporting all the people, And then, but there were people who fought him about deportation that I know personally, but they do not play party politics, right? These people are issue people and they stay on their issue and they don't forget about it no matter who's in charge. But yeah, it's just, and they try to pull this whole like, oh, well, you're saying you're not going to vote for either of them because you're privileged. I'm like, no,
I hate that too.
I have fucking ethics, right? I have morals and ethics, and I care about the people you're claiming that I'm not caring about, because if I voted for either of those two people who I won't name, include the person in office and the person running blue against him, if I voted for either of them, I would be complicit
Right.
in oppressing Black people, oppressing immigrants, oppressing every other non-white person in this country,
In the world, because we're still continually bombing,
exactly,
the Middle East. And I marvel that the so-called liberal in this country could give a shit at the wars that we're in and continue to be in. And, anybody's better than Trump. Well, no, because the last administration got us in all these wars. This guy didn't get us out of any of the wars. And this guy coming in is not going to get us out of any of the wars too, because he's paid by Halliburton and Raytheon and all the rest.
Right. So why are you wasting your vote? I mean, personally, this is what I always tell people, and I have since 2000. Just don't vote for the duopoly, right?
Right.
If you don't like the Green candidate, fine, vote for the Libertarian. You don't like either of them, who cares?
Gloria LaRiva is running. You want to vote for somebody that can be up your alley? Go vote for her.
Well, not in Texas, but
No, I mean, I'm talking about president.
I'm saying she won't be on the ballot in Texas.
Yeah, right.
But that's the problem, right? Is like there are choices. There's a Peace and Freedom Party. There's Gloria LaRiva running for, I forget which flavor of Socialist Party she's running for. There's Howie Hawkins. There's Joe Jurgensen for the Libertarians. So there are choices, and the statistical numbers speak louder than their fears, right? So I have a comrade who got mad at me and deleted his tweet because I challenged them on their fear, right? Like they're afraid that if dumpster if 45 continues, that their life is in danger because they're trans polyamorous, right? Or not trans, gender non-binary and polyamorous. And I'm like, but that's fear. Your life's not in danger right now. And he's there. What's going to change if he stays there, right? Like, your life is not in danger now. So why are you afraid? And it's such a deep core visceral thing that makes no statistical sense. Because if people who are afraid, right? If all the people who are afraid, all the people who hate 45, all the people who hate Joe, if all of them voted for the Greens and the Libertarians, right? Pick one. Then the Democrats and the Republicans would lose, right? Mm-hmm. Straight up lose. And then we would have a shift change. And so you really can't vote out of fear, because voting out of fear just perpetuates your fear.
Well, doing anything out of fear, Henry Wallace said that our biggest mistakes come from the decisions we make in fear. So,
right.
But
exactly.
Hey, listen. In wrapping up, I know you're running for railroad commissioner. Do you have a link or website that we could plug into?
Oh, I have a Facebook page. It's I think it's Green. Oh, now I forgot. It's Green Text TXRRC. I started a hashtag TXRRC on Twitter and Facebook. I need to put something up on the web, but I accidentally let my domain name lapse and can't recover it. So I gotta start all over.
At least you're being honest, man. You're not like, I was hacked by Russians.
Yeah.
The Russians want to stop the Texas Railroad Commissioner from being.
I thought I was done with politics. I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'll just let it lapse. I don't have the money right now. And then
they pulled you back in. They pulled you back in.
And then I got pulled back in, and it was like, but yeah, I have a Facebook page. Katija. It's my first name, last name Gruene.
Okay. I'll get it from you. We'll put it in the body of the show too, so that way people can have it when they see the show.
Right on. Yeah, I haven't been real prolifically posting on there because I've been doing non-campaign stuff. Right. But after I deal with some of that more of that non-campaign stuff that's somewhat time sensitive and urgent, I'll try to make some more posts. But bottom line is people don't even know what the Railroad Commission is, right? But people need to know that it regulates the fossil fuel extraction in the state. So they cover oil, gas, coal, and uranium extraction, which is the core fundamental root of environmental racism, right? He who controls the extraction of fossil fuels that are destroying communities of color is really where it starts.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, and we'll put that, we'll get that stuff in the body of the show. But hey, guys, in wrapping up, my guest has been Katija Gruene, and she is running for railroad commissioner for the Green Party in Texas. She's also been talking about a lot of things that, you may or may not agree with, which is fine, because this show is called The Bitter Truth, not Big Wet Kiss. Again, patreon.com/The Bitter Truth. You want to support the show, you can listen to it for free on all the platforms, Podcast Addict, iTunes, Doodah. And again, guys, if this stuff makes you uncomfortable, it's supposed to. Sleep tight.